Yeah, let's do this. Hi, and welcome to the Beer and News Report. Cheers! I'm your host, Art Maurice, and this is the beautiful studios of Create TV in San Jose, California. This is also part of the Your TV series of shows. First, I want to thank everyone who gave me feedback. I'm taking your advice, and hopefully you'll see this in this show. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm wearing this ridiculous blazer. Well, one of the people who gave me advice was my mother. She saw my first show and she said I should wear something with more pizzazz. She recommended me this hand-me-down from my older brother. This is what she thinks looks better than what I was wearing. So I decided to take a step further. Look at my shirt. This is from the disco era days. If you don't know what disco was, you aren't missing anything. Seriously, look at this shirt. Does this want you to get up and dance? That was disco. As for my next outfit, I took it to the next level. First, I got suspenders, and they're holding up these sweatpants because I don't have any drawstring. Then I got these funky boots and athletic socks. You can't get any worse than this. If that isn't reason to take a drink, I don't know what is. Dang it, this jacket is too tight. Oh, son of a... I'm okay. I'm okay. Oh. That's it, the hell with this jacket. I don't care anymore. Son of a... All right, folks. That drink I need. So tonight we're going to talk about two things. One is this cool app I found on the NOAA website. Actually, they can't quite see me. Can you move me over so that they can have a little more room? There you go. Good, a little more. Perfect. As you can see, the NOAA stands for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is the website to the app that we're going to use tonight, and I got to warn you, once you start playing with it, a couple hours can go by just like that. The second topic is rising sea levels and what we can do about it. So let's have a drink and get started. Now, many websites give their predictions on rising sea levels. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm analyzing the effects to our cities if, and I repeat if, the sea rise goes to the worst case levels. I went to the NOAA website because it's from our government and my tax dollars are paying for this research. I trust them and I want to see what they came up with. They predict, on average, that the sea levels will rise 1 meter or 39 inches by the year 2100. What do they mean on average? Well, since the Earth spins, it's wider at the equator, meaning it's not perfectly round, and more like an oval in shape. This will cause more water to go to the equators than to the poles. To help explain this, I've come up with a video to show why seas will rise more on the equator than at the poles. So, if you're ready to learn, yeah, we better take a drink just to prepare us. Here's the clip. Now you know why sea levels rise more in one area than in another. Cheers to learning something new. Okay, from the data, we can apply it to the NOAA app. I'm going to show you the effects of rising sea level on 3 cities: Boston, Miami, and New Orleans. So let's get started. Cheers.
Okay, so this is the NOAA app showing Boston, and these green areas represent low-lying areas already below sea level, but the outer edges of the land are holding the water back. These blue dots with a drop in them, they have information up to 6 feet, but after that it's all calculations. Okay, 1 foot happens in 2043. Boston holds up well, just a little bit of flooding in the marshland and over here around Essex. 2 feet happens in 2067. You probably notice that there's more green areas appearing, but all in all, Boston holds up well. 3 feet happens in 2090. Again, more of the green areas, a little more flooding up into this river area. Actually, all the rivers kind of show a light blue tint to them, meaning that the water is getting right up to the edge. 4 feet happens in 2113, and up here in Everett and in Chelsea, they're starting to get flooding, and down here in the Boston area, that's getting flooded. But all in all, that holds up well. But I wanted to point out one thing. Let's say a storm hits, or there's a high tide or a storm surge, I meant to say, and it goes to 5 feet. So you can see that between 4 feet and 5 feet is a threshold, and 5 feet breaks the threshold, and here's where a majority of the flooding happens. So even though at 4 feet, which is going to happen in 2113 according to the predictions, not much happens to Boston, with just a little bit of storm surge, a lot can happen to Boston. And for fun, let's go to 10 feet. This is over 100 years from now. But as you can see, if this were to happen, Logan Airport gets flooded out. We can no longer fly into Logan. Everett, Revere, and Chelsea become an island, along with Boston. That's now an island. In fact, there's a number of new islands around here. But again, this is over 100 years away. Let's move on to, so this is Miami. Again, the green areas are low-lying areas. For this one, I want to give you a point of reference. Here's Miami, and this is about 15 miles out from Miami. Okay, 1 foot happens in 2037. Just like Boston, Miami holds up pretty well. Not much damage. 2 feet happens in 2054. Now, Miami holds up well, and a lot more green area has appeared, but look at Miami Beach right along here. It's easily 10 to 20% flooded. All these coastal parts are now flooded. 3 feet happens in 2072, and now we're starting to see inland flooding, but Miami Beach is probably now 50% flooded. These rivers, you can see that they're overflowing their banks now. 4 feet happens in 2089. More of the same. The inland fills up. All the rivers are flooded over. Miami Beach is now probably 80% flooded. And Miami does go to 5 feet. It happens in 2106. As you can see, the inland is really flooded. All the rivers are way, way over flooded. Miami Beach is pretty much gone. And for fun, we will go to 10 feet. And for all practical purposes, I would say that Miami is no longer livable. Pretty much everything around it has been flooded out. Miami, Miami Beach, North Miami. So again, 10 feet is over 100 years away. So we got plenty of time, but just to bring it to your attention. Now let's move over to New Orleans. Okay, the last city is New Orleans. And just like the others, the green areas are low-lying areas. The blue dots with the drop in them mean that they have information up to 6 feet. I also want you to kind of take a look at these dark green areas. These are the marshlands, and they're very low-lying. And from this city here, Pierrepont, all the way up to Baton Rouge is about 22 miles right here. Okay, 1 foot happens in 2038. And already we can see that pretty much half of the land, so I'd say about 10, 12 miles of ocean has flowed up into the Louisiana area. If we go to 2 feet, which happens in 2057, it's more of the same. So this low-lying area is just getting flooded as the sea level rises. 3 feet, which happens in 2075. And here we're noticing that West Baton Rouge is starting to become a coastal city. New Orleans is holding up well, but the marshlands are pretty much getting flooded out. 4 feet happens in 2094. And then finally, 5 feet happens in 2112. And at that point, West Baton Rouge is a coastal city. And let's go all the way to 10 feet. And there you can see that Baton Rouge becomes a coastal city. All the marshland's pretty much gone. So the oceans have gone up about past 20 miles. 22 miles what I calculated, but that's to Baton Rouge. And it went past Baton Rouge, so it could be like 25 miles. Okay, that is New Orleans.
And let's get back to the beer news report. Welcome back. Pretty cool, huh? Try that app for yourself and pick any coastal city in the U.S. There's something that I need to point out. My calculations are based on a linear rise in sea levels. But as you can see from this chart, it is more likely that the sea will rise exponentially. If that indeed is the case, then all my predictions will happen earlier. It will be easy to tell as I listed the sea levels and the dates for each city in the appendix right after the credits. If you don't live near the coast, then rising sea oceans probably won't affect you. In terms of water damage or having to move to higher ground, that won't happen to you. Also, the more north you live, the less the ocean is going to rise for you. So why should you care? Well, let's have a drink and take a look at a chart from the Union of Concerned Scientists, a U.S. organization showing the estimate of people who will be affected. Cheers. Looking at this chart, we can see that Florida alone, 1 million people will be displaced due to rising oceans, and that's a minimum. Next is Louisiana, which will have close to 1 million people displaced. I did a rough calculation and I estimated about 3.7 million people will be displaced, but I only used 1 million people from Florida. Also, this chart shows 22 cities affected, but if we include Alaska and Hawaii, then that's 24 states. And that's not, I mean, that is enough voting power to get the federal government to come to their rescue. So even if you don't live in a coastal city, rising sea levels will affect you. Where are all these people going to go? Well, most of the states are big enough to absorb their displaced people, with the exception of Florida and possibly Louisiana. But Art, Florida is a huge state. Yes, but it's also has the most coastal cities and thus the most people than any other state being affected. I used 1 million people, but the chart doesn't give an upper limit. It could be 2 or 3 million people. I think all the disasters, like a hurricane that you've seen or heard in the news, what does the government do? They send in FEMA to try to help them through the crisis, and then HUD comes in to help them rebuild. But if the ocean has swallowed up your house, you can't rebuild. So the only option for HUD or a government agency is to help you move and get a house somewhere else. The funding for this is going to come out of your tax dollars. Yeah, how does that make you feel? I don't know about you, but I need a drink. Now, I was watching my local news on NBC Bay Area, and Stephen Stock informed us of an investigative report that they did. This is a chart from the State of California Sea Rise Guidance Report. It shows all the construction going on in the Bay Area that is going to be flooded in the next several decades. Mayors in these cities requiring new buildings to have raised foundations, which is great until the sea rises and floods out the road to these buildings. Then what are they going to do? As for old buildings and houses that are predicted to get flooded, the same mayors admitted that it's going to come down to California tax dollars. But I'm sure we will get help from the federal government too. I mean, if all the other states are getting help, California is going to want their share too. So, what can we do? Well, the first thing is to get involved with your local government. Go meet your mayor or your city council person. Tell them how you feel and ask them what they're doing to prepare for this crisis. Mainly, stop building in low-lying areas. Next, we have to find states that need people. There is such a thing. Well, I know one of them, so I better have a drink because I'm not sure my family is going to like this. So we need to have these people move to affordable states that want people. For instance, Vermont, where I'm originally from. Vermont is hurting for people, especially young people, to build its workforce. They even have an incentive program where they will pay your moving costs up to $10,000 for you to move there. So why would young people move to Vermont? Because the federal and the state government is going to help them get a house so they can start a family and get on with their life, right? Vermont will move them and the federal government, meaning HUD, will help them get a house. Hey, a house in Vermont is way cheaper than a house in California. Other good states are Wyoming, which has the lowest state population, Alaska, North and South Dakota. But I haven't heard of state relocation programs for them like there is in Vermont. Realistically speaking, out of all the people that get displaced, maybe 1% will take advantage of this program and move to Vermont. But I gotta believe that there's other states that have cities or towns that could use some people. Well, let's start some programs now so that we can get this crisis when it happens. So we can have affected people some choices. As you can see, my beer is almost empty, and that means that we are at the end of the show. You have been watching the Beer and News Report. I've been your host, Art Maurice, and this is the beautiful studios of Create TV in San Jose, California. Please let me know what you think of the show, and hopefully you'll like it, and please subscribe to future shows. And remember to keep your beer cold and your interest hot. Cheers.